I think I saw it and I was like, okay, I really was angry. And it was not bad that I was angry.
Right, and that was
I have a
okay.
right
Yeah.
to be angry.
Right.
I think the past like couple of years, like I've really had to process through that anger, like, you know, because I wasn't allowed to. So I think now as an adult, I've processed through, I think most of that. I think there's here and there's a little bit still, but I do a lot of paintings now. And so that's kind of my way of like,
that's good.
of just getting that out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because if you've held it in for so long, at some point you actually have to feel that. Welcome to a very special episode of Max Afterburner, powered by No Fallen Heroes. My name is Susan Buckley. I am Wiz's wife, and I am filling in today in interviewing the very beautiful Jamie. Matt did an episode last week with her husband, Brian, and since No Fallen Heroes, we're working on spouses and partners and loved ones as well. We wanted to bring you on and have a talk about your medicine journey because apparently I can't wait to hear the episode from last week. Matt said Brian's was amazing. So I'm looking forward to hearing your story and how you healed and how your healing has helped Brian and yourself and your relationship and your family and everybody else. Yeah. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So tell me a little bit about what brought you to do the medicine, and then we'll go from there, like as to when you did it and how it went.
Well, really, it kind of started with I was in a really bad car accident right when COVID happened. Me and my daughter were. And when that happened, it was kind of like, it woke me up like, man, I only got one life to live and I almost lost it. And so I really just started kind of reevaluating my life. And my husband, Brian, got the opportunity to go through the medicine journey. And I was really actually pretty scared about it because I didn't know enough about it, the medicine. So I was like, oh, I don't know if that's a good idea. Yeah. I don't know.
Did you hear all the stories about like, oh my gosh, people lose their minds and they're like, what? I'm sending you to Mexico to do this? Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So when he did that and he came back, just changed in so many great ways. That I was like, okay, well, maybe I should do this because at that point I had been on like hydrocodone for over 2 years.
Oh, wow.
I had 2 spinal cord stimulators put in my back, one for my neck, one for my back, neck fusion, and a lot of pains, just so much pain that I was kind of hooked on the hydrocodone.
Oh, geez.
I mean, mentally I wasn't, like I knew I wanted to get off of it, but I hurt so bad that I was like, there's no way right now.
Right.
And so I was on it for, I think, at least 2.5 years I was on that stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so when he got back home, just completely changed in so many great ways. I was like, okay, I need to do this for me. And so, and I mean, literally like grew up in the church my whole life. And I was sexually abused as a kid from 2 different uncles. And I lived in fear every day. And so when I say that 37 years of living with that trauma and 8 hours later, I was completely healed from it. 8 hours later.
Yeah. It's hard to even imagine when, I'm sure like when Brian came home and all of his healing and how he felt, and then he's telling you, it's hard to even imagine. And so for you to say that to somebody else who might have gone through what you went through, they can't even fathom that that's possible. No. And it's completely possible. Yeah. It's amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like literally at 37 years of trauma that were just gone in 8 hours. Like,
that's
just
amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So when he came home, I was like, okay, man, I gotta do this for me. And hopefully, and they had 2 different, the one we went through is like, we have one to get you off of like drugs or like, opiates like I was on. Or they have the one that Brian went through, which was for, post-traumatic stress and all that for the war and all that. Right. And so I was like, well, I think I kind of have both of those.
Can I do both?
Yeah. So I went through the one that was to get off the opiates, but I went there knowing I'm not going to come back and be the same.
Right.
Like I remember so I want to get all choked up, but I remember the night before I left and I said bye to my kids. And I knew I wasn't going to be the same person.
Yeah.
I just knew, like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be different and I'm going to be healed. I just knew, like, I had no doubt in my mind that I wasn't going to just come back and be
the same,
a completely different person.
Yeah. it's amazing because the medicine starts calling to you and things start changing before you even go. Did you find that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, but yeah, I remember like kissing the kids bye and just knowing like I'm going to be different and just like without it, I had no doubt either. Like it wasn't like before, like I said, I grew up in church my whole life and tried all the things that church had me do and none of it worked, none of it. And so, but I just knew I'm going to come back and I'm going to be healed. I'm going to be different. I didn't even know to the extent of what it all, would, but man, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It was more than you probably could have ever even imagined.
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay. So you started on the journey. Where did you went to Mexico?
Yep.
And which medicine did you do?
I did Ibogaine and the
5-MeO.
Yep.
Okay. Did you go to the Mission Within? Or where did you go? Did you go to Ambio?
Yeah, Ambio.
Okay. Yeah, we just sent somebody to Ambio recently.
Okay.
So both of them are going to help with trauma and the opioids with the Ibogaine. So
yeah,
you picked a good one for what you need.
Yeah, definitely.
So walk us on to how your journey went. So you fly into San Diego, right? And they pick you up, and then go. Where'd you go from there? Were you with all women, or were you with a mixed group, or?
No, it was just, there was only 3 of us, and mainly just me and this other guy.
Okay.
And he had already been there, I think, like a week before me, and he was getting off like
like
heroin,
detoxing.
like the hard stuff.
Yeah.
So he was there, and then for just the weekend was another lady that was there. So there was 3 of us, but mainly for the most of the time, the whole week and a half I was there, it was mainly just me and this other guy.
Okay. So you were there for a week and a half?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, about 10 days, I think.
Is that because they were stepping you down from the...
Yes.
Okay.
Now, they wouldn't let me go through the program until I got to like every 12 hours on it because, they're like, well, you can't have you come and yet, because I wanted to come right away. When he got home, I was like, I want to go right now.
Right.
And they're like, well, you got to get to every 12 hours on this medicine before we can have you come.
Right.
So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I had a really great pain doctor. He was like, I want to miss you. So I was really blessed with a pain doctor that helped me get there.
Yeah. Good,
so,
good.
But then when I got to 12 hours, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm just like, really withdrawn really bad. It was awful. It felt so sick. Like I had the flu and just the sweats, and it was awful.
Yeah.
So, but I got there and like pretty much leapfrogged over.
Yeah. So when you get there and you're coming off of the prescription medicines, do they still step you down more once you're there because you were there for a week and a half, or you were already stepped down as far as you needed to be? You were
I
able
think
to
I
do
was
the medicine.
stepped up down off enough. I think I remember them giving me a pill like a couple hours before we did Ibogaine, but then after that, I didn't need anything.
Right.
So
yeah.
Okay,
so you get down there and you do your fire ceremony and you talk about your intentions and you do all that good stuff, and then tell me about your journey as much as you feel comfortable. Yeah. Let us know, because it's great for when the spouses go. Also, you had other circumstances, but like Wiz always says, he's like 99% of my trauma is Wiz induced. That's not all true, but a lot of the military spouses take on a lot of their trauma because you care for them so much and you're trying to help them, and you're living with them as they're suffering. So it's nice to have a conversation with another military spouse who went through it, and we can help other spouses maybe realize, because like I didn't think I had any trauma until I went and did my journey, and then I'm like, maybe there's a few things there.
Just a few.
So I'm like, okay, maybe there's a few things I could work on. So, because you don't realize it, because I didn't have any major trauma like you did, or the guys did per se from, whatever. So tell us what you're comfortable talking about.
Man, so for me, I had done like gummies before, like once maybe or twice, and it made me really sick. So I was like, that's not for me. So for me, it was like when they gave me the pills, I think it was after the third pill, because they give you like, you can either do 4 or 5. And I think I only had 4. Like I only needed 4.
Right.
I didn't need any more. It was good. But I think the third one, I was like feeling kind of sick. So I felt kind of like almost as if I had a gummy. Like that was just that uneasy feeling. So I hadn't crossed over to the other side yet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is awful. And they're like, you just got pushed through. You're going to get, you'll get you there and you'll be fine. I'm
right.
like, okay. So I just kind of did a lot of self-talk in my head too. Like, okay, I can do this.
Got this.
Brian's done this. His mom's went through it. So like, I can do this.
Right.
So I just kind of talked myself through it. And yeah, the first thing I noticed was that my hearing got crystal clear and I could hear like the heart monitor, like I could hear it drawing, because it was kind of an older school, like heart monitor. And I could hear it like drawing like my heart. And I was like, I could hear it. I'm like, what in the world? And then I'm looked over and I think it was a guy that was sitting in for me at the time. And I'm looking at him I'm like, why in the world does he have paint all over his face right now? Like, what in the world? I'm looking and he, as he's walking over to me, I'm like, you have paint on your face. And he looks and he just like gets closer and closer to me. And then he's like right here. And I'm like right next to me. And I'm like, it's not there now. And I swear you had paint all over your face.
Oh my gosh.
And every woman, every person that walked by the room, everything, they all had the paint. And it was like blue and white, like almost like little dots just all over, mainly like all over the forehead. And I was like, oh, they're healers. That's why they have the paint on their face.
Yeah.
So I just realized, I'm like, oh, okay.
That makes sense.
So that's why I was like, okay, it's kicking in because I'm seeing that.
Yeah. And it's wild on the medicine. Because it is so, you're taking the plant and that's what it is. And so you did see those people like that because historically, in the jungles, they did paint their faces like that.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like I was seeing, I did psilocybin and I was seeing these like statues, like Aztec looking type of statues that I've never seen before.
Oh.
And I'm like, and then they weren't there. So it's like the medicine is now part of you. So you were crossing over.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was one of the first things that I saw. I was like, okay, it's definitely kicking in.
Something's happening.
And I could not wear the mask. They gave you like and I still have that mask, but I could not use it. Like when I tried, I think the first thing was like, whoa, what's in my mask? Because I'm seeing like thousands of, like, I'm in this black abyss with all these stars everywhere. And I'm like, it's the mask or something, right? Like something's not right.
Am I really there?
And I would move it and I'm like, okay, it's not there. Okay, it's there. What in the world is happening right now? Yeah. It's really confusing. And I remember Brian telling me that. He was like, oh yeah, I remember, like, everybody would say the mask. Oh, no, there's nothing wrong with the mask. Like that's really what you're seeing. It's not like in the mask or something. It's completely like you can't see through that mask.
Yeah.
There's no way I would see stars through that mask.
Right. Yeah. It's like when I did it, I saw like a whole movie, like with the mask on, like clear as day. Like I was watching a movie. So it's
yeah, and it just slides by. Like it just really slow motion, things just randomly appear and you're like, okay, like a movie for like 12 hours.
Right.
So so I saw that and I was like, okay. But for me, I just couldn't, it was too much. So I I need to take that off. It was bugging me. So I took it off, but it didn't matter. Like it didn't matter. Just closed my eyes and there it all was.
Right.
It was just all there. I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I saw a lot of random things like a cookie shape. Yeah, it was like a cookie cutter of a dog. Okay, but it was red and it was made of carpet.
Okay. I'm
like, what the hell is that for? Like, what the fuck am I seeing that?
Right.
That's really random. Okay.
Yeah.
And then there was other things, and I remember them telling me, if you see something uncomfortable, just open your eyes and then it will not be there. And then you can close your eyes and something else will appear. I'm like, okay. So I remember them telling me that. And before, at the fire ceremony, I already knew, like, I'm going to see this abuse happen. I already knew, like, oh crap, you know, and how's it going to show up? I don't know. But I just knew that this is something I wanted to deal with, but was scared to, if that made sense, because I wasn't sure how it was going to happen.
Right.
And so I remember seeing, like, little girls just ran right past me, like through fields and stuff. And I'm like, huh, okay. And then there were some that looked kind of like me when I was young, some, or like my daughter, because my daughter was, like, you know, a lot younger back, you know, this was like 3 or 4 years ago. So she's younger, and I was seeing little smaller versions of her when she was a lot smaller, like 4 or 5 years old, which, you know, I was like 3 or 4 when the abuse started happening. And so I'm like, okay, I'm seeing these random girls walk by, running by me. I saw my old dog from my childhood. I was like, oh my gosh, Britches. His name was Britches because he looked like he had pants on.
Oh, so cute.
So I was like, oh my gosh, what? Britches, what are you doing here? You know, like, it's weird. I saw my grandfather. He appeared kind of in a gold frame. He just kind of showed up, and then he's just waving at me like, hey, what are you doing here? Like, actually 2 days from now is when I think it'll be 17 years since he's passed.
Oh, wow.
So it's crazy, but he's like more of a dad to me than my own dad. So when he died, it was really hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I saw him, and he's waving at me like, hey, what are you doing here? You know, it was really cool. I saw him, and then I saw this really big life-size pill bottle, and I'm like, okay. So that made me think, okay, that's probably the hydrocodone. You know, it was a huge life-size pill bottle, and it poured out. And when it poured out, I went to like this really big, like it just poured out all the pills, and then it turned to this white that's not a white here. Like, I knew it was somewhere else because it was not a white here. I was like, okay. And I remember I was like, I want to see Jesus. I want to see my Papa. I want to see Jesus. And so, like, there was this painting, and I forgot who did it, but this little girl, this painting, it's like my favorite one of Jesus. And it kind of just showed up, but it didn't look straight at me. It kind of just looked like kind of at a side profile. And I was like, okay, in a beautiful gold frame. So it was weird how people I would see, they would usually show up in like a gold frame. Well, he showed up in like a really beautiful gold frame. I was like real gold. It was beautiful and thick and really, really pretty frame. And he didn't look at me or say anything really. It just kind of stopped and then it kind of went away. I remember
almost like he was just showing you, like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah. And I remember, actually, I'll back up a little bit, because before I saw that, I saw like a little girl running through a field, and then she gets grabbed, and I'm like, oh, okay, no, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready to see that. Because I knew where it was going. I'm like, nope, I'm not ready for that. So opened my eyes, you know, and then closed them, and something else appeared. So then when I saw the white after the pill bottle and the Jesus painting, then I heard the most beautiful voice I've ever heard before. Like, nothing, like, you know, I still believe in God. I don't go to church anymore, but I still believe in God. And I know it was God's voice, and it was just all he said was, are you ready? And it just kept repeating, are you ready?
Oh, wow.
Are you ready? And I knew he was asking me, are you ready to go there? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Are you ready to deal with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so this time it kind of, what it did was it showed me, because I was 37 at that point, and 40 now, but 37. And so it just kind of went backwards. Every year it showed me a picture of myself, and it went backwards. And it just kind of went kind of fast until it got to about 3. And that's when I was raped by my uncle. And so it took me kind of back to, we were in this like, there was like vines on both sides of it. And it was like and it was outside, and it was fall time. And it just kind of took me there, and it took me through it, and showed me like the rape happened. And I remember, like, there was not emotion there. which was really awesome because I was worried like crap. I already have flashbacks and have lived in this trauma for 37 years. Like I didn't want to deal with like emotions or anything. So I was really happy that there was no emotions. It was almost like I was seeing it in like a third person view, and I was seeing it happen, but there wasn't any emotions attached to it, which was great. So I saw it happen, and of course it was uncomfortable to see, you know, but like it wasn't like, it didn't traumatize me like it had always done my whole life. And so I was like, okay. And then when it got to the rape part of it, like I started purging, like I started throwing up, and it was hard getting it up because it was almost like I was throwing up poison from that abuse. Like, and it was not a lot of it. I didn't puke a ton, but
just the energy,
just try to get that out. It was hard to get it out. And so I got it out finally, but it was kind of hard to get it out. But when I was puking it, it was like, it literally tasted like poison. So I was like, okay, well, I got that out of there. It kind of showed me something a little disturbing, which I kind of already knew, kind of going into this, that, hey, it's in the family, like bloodline of this abuse, because I wasn't the only one in the family. Most every woman in my family on my dad's side had been abused by this same uncle.
Oh my goodness.
I think I was the only one that he raped, but he molested so many other, all of them, except for my cousin, her dad was not a brother of the uncle. So I'm thinking that maybe one of my uncles had kind of joked and said, well, that's because he probably would have killed him if he would have messed with his daughter. So that's why, like, we think that may be why he didn't mess with her. I don't know.
Wow.
Or maybe he did and we just never knew. Who knows? But yeah, so, but it was weird. It showed me kind of like, and it was really sick because I remember it showed me like my grandpa was raping a boy. And he was raping a boy, and he was raping, and it just kind of went like a spiral of all the rape. And I was like, gosh. And also when it showed me my rape, it paused and it went to like just a few of the, kind of almost like the Matrix, where it's just all over the screen is the rape. Because it started out was just like 5 or 10 of them, and then it was like hundreds of them. So like it just overwhelmed me of the rape scene right there. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and that's when I started puking, when I saw that, and thousands of them in my vision. I was like, okay, I think it's trying to overload it on me, like. But then when I saw my grandpa, it was the same thing, like just a row of them, just thousands of it. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and again, it just kind of confirmed this was in the bloodline, and you're cutting that head off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's no longer in the bloodline anymore. It stops with you, and it will not continue. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, okay.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, I saw,
and a lot of people say that when they're healing like something very traumatic like that, you know, you can do talk therapy all you want, but when you're on the medicine, it does take the emotion out of it for you. So you're able to really focus on it and look at it as if it's not you, even though it's you, but you're able to. So it's interesting that you say the same thing, because I've heard that from other people, and it's amazing how that, because really it makes that healing completely a different way to be able to look at it for you.
Yeah. And I was so happy because there was no emotion, because my whole life it's been, I mean, flashbacks, you know, can't watch any, I mean, just the trauma, I mean, living in trauma every day of my life for 37 years of living in fear. Yeah. I couldn't go to the grocery store by myself. Even if it was during the day, I didn't feel safe because I was scared I was going to get raped again as an adult. Right. I mean, just the trauma, kind of what Brian and I, it's like trauma filter, basically.
Yeah, because it was from somebody that was supposed to be somebody you trusted. Yeah. So, I mean, that's. Mm-hmm.
Well, and it was 2 different uncles. Oh. Yeah. So the one that raped me and molested me, and then the other one that molested me. So it was like, it was just like, I was so happy there wasn't the emotion there. Right. You know?
You were able to really heal from it then, because you were able to process it probably a little bit.
Pretty quicker.
In a different way, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quicker. Yeah.
A lot quicker. 8 hours. Crazy.
And then seeing all the other ones and being able to be, you know, having that it stops here is really powerful.
Yeah. And then, so when I was little, like nothing happened. Like they just kind of swept it under the rug. Like it was no big deal. they didn't know the extent of it until high school when, you know, I was suicidal and all that. But they didn't really know the extent of it until then. But they knew enough. Like, hey, he touched my frontie. Okay, that's enough for you to say, oh, I'm not going to put my daughter around that person anymore. But they didn't do that. They just said, oh, don't leave Jamie alone. I have 2 older brothers, and so my mom would, when I had to go see my dad, that's when all the abuse would happen, was when he was around his brother. Right. And so
and your brothers probably weren't, I mean,
no.
They don't know.
They were kids themselves.
Right. So it's not really their job, but I mean, if they probably older knew, they wouldn't have left you alone. But of course, don't leave Jamie alone. Yeah, okay, whatever. We're going to go play with over here.
Yeah. And I mean, and he tried to get me alone a few times after that happened. After I told it, he tried to get me alone a couple times, but thankfully it didn't happen, and that didn't happen anymore once I told. But it was just like, you're putting that responsibility on my brothers who were kids themselves. Like, really? What the fuck, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not okay.
Right.
And so, like I have a memory of like my uncle trying to get me alone, and my brother's running there trying to catch up with me, and he does. And he has this mad look on his face. And I remember thinking, like, why is he mad at me? Like, I didn't do anything. I'm just walking down the road with my uncle, which I knew was probably try to hurt me again. But I'm like, why is he mad at me? I didn't do anything. Like, him. Yeah. Not me.
Yeah. They're probably just worried.
But he still has that memory. He said, I remember that. He said, I wasn't mad at you. I was just mad because I was trying to do what mom told me to do.
Right.
And protect you.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I don't think he really knew what what was taking place. He just did what mom said. Oh, don't leave Jamie alone with Uncle Rick. Right. I'm like, okay.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, on the Ibogaine, I also saw, like me as a little girl. Mm-hmm. And I kind of prefaced all that with that because when I was on Ibogaine, I saw me as a little girl. And because I grew up in the church my whole life, like anger is a sin. You're not allowed to be angry. So I wasn't allowed to be angry about the abuse on Ibogaine.
Right.
That little girl was fucking pissed. It's kind of creepy when I think about it, because she like was so mad. Her face was beet red. She was crying, screaming. But here's the thing. You couldn't hear her. She's like this. But you couldn't hear me, which again meant something to me because I never felt like I was heard or seen.
Right.
When that all happened, nothing was done. Nothing. Yeah. So like.
And you weren't allowed to have an emotion about anything.
No.
Yeah.
That little girl, she was pissed.
Yeah.
She was like, what the fuck is going on? What are you doing? Why aren't you doing anything about this? Like, why?
Yeah.
You know, why are you putting this person around that person still? I mean, I was like 12 years old, and my mom brought those uncles to my house. And this is after her knowing the little bit she knew. And her reason was, oh, well, your grandma wanted to see you and she can't drive. So the uncle had to drive. And I'm not kidding you when I say probably for a year, at least a year, maybe longer, I slept in the floor in my mom's room after that because I didn't feel safe in my own home.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Right.
You know, like who does that?
Right.
Or my dad still to this day, which I don't talk to, because he chooses to still hang around the abusers.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah.
How is that okay? It's not.
No. Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, when I saw that little girl, I was like, oh man, yeah, she was pissed. And it's kind of creepy when I think about it.
Yeah. And look at, I mean, even you right there saying that you don't talk to your dad, you really broke the cycle. It's never going to happen. Yeah. It's never going to happen to your daughter. It's never going to happen to her daughter. It's never going to happen to anybody else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's, I'm trying to think what else I saw. I saw so many things. Like I said, lots of random things. I saw like, every language. Every language. It was like a placemat thing. If you go to kindergarten and here's that capital A and here's the lowercase a but it was in every language. And it went really, really fast. And even went to like back in the cave days. I forgot what that's called, but like,
like sans, like wall art or whatever.
Hieroglyphics or whatever it's called. Yeah. I saw that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Just really random stuff, but the amazing healing things. And I couldn't believe, like, the next day I was like, I just like, wow, is this what this feels like to be healed? Like just, like all the weight was gone. All the fear was gone. Like just, I mean, I remember like on the Ibogaine, and I had a male nurse, and I was like, fuck, I have to pee. And you don't know me before this, but the thought of even just a man having to take me to the bathroom, fuck that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That ain't happening. I'll hold it.
Yeah.
I'll pee in my pants like that.
Right.
No.
Right.
So that to me was proof like, oh my God, like I'm fucking healed because this man had to take me 2 different times to the bathroom because I had to pee really bad. And when you're on Ibogaine, you can't move. I mean, it's very hard to move, as you know, like you're wobbly and oh my God, like, so 2 different times that guy, and he was so sweet. He was like, don't worry, I'm not looking. I'm not looking. Just let me help you. Such a sweet guy. So it was really, really amazing to me to see that. And I'm like, wow,
you weren't scared.
I wasn't afraid. I wasn't worried. I think for a brief second I was like, okay. But then he just said, hey, you're fine. I'm good. I'm not looking. I just need to help you.
Right.
So you don't hurt yourself. And no big deal.
Yeah.
I was like, what? You know, like the next morning, like processing things. I'm like, how did that that didn't worry me.
Right. Yeah.
Like it was just gone. The fear was just gone. It wasn't there.
Wow. Yeah.
It's crazy.
How did you feel about, like you said, you saw the little girl who was angry. Did you feel like your anger about it was gone, or did you hold on to that for longer, or?
I think I saw it and I was like, okay, I really was angry. And it was not bad that I was angry.
Right, and that was
I have a right to be angry.
Right.
I think the past couple of years, I've really had to process through that anger, because I wasn't allowed to. So I think now as an adult, I've processed through, I think most of that. I think there's here and there's a little bit still, but I do a lot of paintings now. And so that's kind of my way of of just getting that out.
Yeah.
But
because if you've held it in for so long, at some point you actually have to feel that anger.
Yeah.
So I was wondering how that came on. Did it come on a lot, or was it just
kind of gradually? Yeah. As I, and I, a lot of deconstructions from the church. And so that has brought anger too, in that only way of hey, I wasn't demon possessed like you said I was all these years of my whole life. Oh no, you weren't demon possessed. You're
abused.
You're abused, and you have to overcome that.
Right.
But yeah, just and then a couple days later, I did the 5-MeO, and I was a nervous wreck about that.
I was a wreck about that too.
Well, because Brian's like, oh, it's like a rocket ship. And I'm like, fuck, I don't want to be in a rocket ship.
Matt was like, I felt like I died. And I was like, what? I don't want to die.
I don't want to die. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I was a nervous wreck. And I can't smoke. So I'm the worst smoker on earth. So I was coughing, and they're like, you're supposed to hold that in. I'm like, I'm trying. I'm not trying to cough it up, I'm like, so yeah. Oh but God. How did it go for you?
Oh man, it was really, I was running the bathroom the whole day. And then they delayed it 4 hours, and I'm like, fuck, I just want to just get this over with.
Do it.
I just want to get it over with. This is God.
Yeah.
So, he walked me through it all. If you smoked before, I have it on video. And I was like, no, I haven't, cigar once or twice, but not really. And so he's like, well, it's not like a cigar. You don't smoke it like that. I was like, okay. And so, the first puff was just kind of very, very, put me in a very relaxed state
or whatever.
Yeah. A very relaxed state. And then I only had the second puff, and I coughed some of that up. So they gave me a little bit more, but I only had the 2 puffs really. And that was all I needed. Yeah. And I was like, and then there was the holy fuck, what did I just take moment for a minute. I'm like, what did I just do? Oh my God, this is, cause my whole vision went white. I couldn't see anything. There was really beautiful patterns within the white, but I was blinded basically. I couldn't see. I'm like, I don't like this. I feel very alone right now.
Yeah.
What did I just do? And I just had to do a lot of self-talk for probably a couple minutes, really just to get through to the other side of okay, I'm fine. I'm okay. And I literally just in my mind, I'm okay. I'm okay. And on my video, I can hear myself. You're okay. You're okay. I'm just talking to myself. I'm okay. I'm okay. And when I finally let go, it was I exploded into a diamond. It just exploded. And then just love overwhelmed me. And it was not a love I had ever felt before. And it was a love for myself. Because I said, God, I got healed from all the trauma, but I didn't feel your love that you've always had for me. And that's what I want on this DMT experience. I want to feel what I want to feel your love.
Right.
And it was kind of like, well, here you go. This is a love for yourself for the first time in 37 years in your whole life.
Yeah.
I never felt love for myself. And so it was just very overwhelming. It just overwhelmed me with love. It was beautiful.
That's awesome.
The next day after Ibogaine, I did feel a little bit of withdrawals from the medicine. So they gave me one pill, like I think they called it a booster pill. And so I did that, and I saw a really hot pink, beautiful hibiscus flower that said, "You are healed." And I just kind of heard it in my brain. It wasn't like I heard it audibly,
right?
But like, "You are healed in every way."
Wow. And
it just kind of floated away. And so that's why I have my "You are healed" hibiscus on my arm, because it reminds me, hey, I'm healed of all that trauma. Like, it's healed.
Yeah.
And it hasn't came back. It's been 3 years and it hasn't came back.
Wow.
Like, I can watch a movie. I love CSI, but those have those rape scenes in it. And for me, it's always been like, oh no, I cannot skip.
Right.
Like, I can't. Now I'll watch them, and again, it's not comfortable, but it doesn't tear me apart where I'm screaming, crying, turn that fucking thing off right now.
Yeah, it's not triggering you back.
It's not triggering me like it used to.
Wow. It's amazing. The medicine, the way it just handles.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's crazy. And then I remember I just got home, and like, sorry. When I made love with my husband for the first time, coming home, it felt like that was the first time ever. Oh. Like, that was, I remember telling him that was our first time.
Yeah.
Not all the,
you didn't have all the other trauma with you. Wow.
But I'm like, no, that was the first time for me.
Yeah.
Like, with him.
Yeah.
That was the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, babe. But like, that to me was the first time, not like, the 15 years prior to that.
Right.
It was like, no, that was my first time.
Yeah, because you were actually, you weren't carrying everything with it.
Yeah. Wow. And I could actually enjoy it.
Yeah. And you
now I love sex.
And you felt the love for yourself.
Yeah.
Which, you love yourself, you can love somebody else even more.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just when I thought I couldn't love him anymore,
right.
it was like, oh man, no, this is really what love is. Like, I love you. Like, I really love you now.
Yeah. Now you're really stuck with me.
Exactly. Yeah, it was crazy. I remember thinking that. I was like, oh my gosh. And I told him that. I was like, this was the first time for us. Like,
yeah. Wow.
This was.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
And how was, and the, like the pain pills and stuff, you were fine after that? Like, you didn't have, you didn't feel great the one day, and then
just the first day, like the next day I just had a little bit of like, the itchiness, a little bit kind of withdrawals, but literally they gave me the one booster and that was it. Like, after that, I didn't needed anything. Mm-mm.
Wow. And then what'd your kids think when you came home? How was all that?
They noticed right away, like, something's different with mom. Yeah. Like, just something's different.
Yeah.
Like, she, just
later and
peaceful and just, because here's the thing, when you have a husband who travels like, we do, like they speak and they're gone all the time. I mean, I was always on hyper alert every time that he was gone somewhere.
I'm sure.
Like, I'm fearful that I'm going to get raped again. I'm fearful that somebody's going to try to do something to me or my kid, or just, just so when you're in that, like I said, that trauma filter, you see it all through that filter. And so when that's not there, it's like, whoa, okay, I can still be alert and aware of my surroundings, but I'm not consumed by the fear of it.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's the difference, is like, I'm still aware, but I'm not worried.
You were probably over Mama Bear, because I worry about my daughter. I'm like, I will kill somebody. You come near my daughter. But I can't imagine if you were already like, well, I'm going to kill you if you come near me. And I'm like, double kill you if you come near her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you must
And we have
so
a
much lighter.
son too. So we have 2 kids.
Yeah.
And so for both, I'm like,
Both, yeah.
Nope. And yeah, it was crazy. I remember just getting home and I have a journal and I wrote it down in the journal, but it was like, I was like, oh, okay. And it's literally right down the road from like still in the neighborhood, this little complex. I didn't even want to go by myself in the dark there. And they have a Domino's and the kids wanted pizza. And I was like, I'll go get the pizza. So I went and got the pizza. Oh, I'm getting low on gas and the tire's low. Oh, I'll just do that too. I'm already out. I might as well. And then
you're
I
looking
get
at yourself
home.
like, what am I doing?
I didn't even notice.
Really?
And then I got home and I start crying and Brian's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I just went and got the pizza and gas and the tires filled up and I wasn't scared. I couldn't believe it. I was like, and I just did all that and I had no fear.
Right.
It was just it just wasn't there anymore.
Wow.
And it still isn't.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Crazy.
So what did you do for, because, with No Fallen Heroes, we're trying to help with like integration. We do the pre-calls and the integration. Did you do much integration? Or did you just kind of integrate this all yourself? Or did you have somebody to talk to? Or
I mean, Brian was really like the person that I would talk to about a lot of it.
Yeah.
His mom too, because she had went through it like a month before me.
Oh, wow.
And so he did it and we both were like, we're going.
Yeah.
And so she was able to go. We wanted to go together and it just didn't happen because I was still not where I needed to be on the medicine. So we couldn't go together.
Okay.
But I'm kind of glad it worked out the way it did. It just, that was meant to be for her to go by herself and me to go by it just was meant to be that way.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I don't even know what I was going to say.
Yeah. You just integrated with him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would talk to him about things and also, I kept in touch with Trevor and Brianna from the MBO. And so, we'd messaged with them on Signal and like, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And, and so, they were all great to just kind of, bounce ideas and bounce thoughts off with.
Yeah.
So,
because I think sometimes like when I went, I wanted, like, what did this mean? What did this mean? What did this mean? Well, it doesn't always mean anything. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to have a meaning. So I think a lot of people hone in on something like, well, this happened and I just have to figure out what that meant. But maybe you don't,
Yeah.
So, well, good.
Because I did ayahuasca in November. And so and that was beautiful too in its own way. And I didn't know I had self-hate in there. And when I was on it, I saw, that. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I got rid of that too.
How was the ayahuasca compared? Because I've never done ayahuasca.
Well, what I liked about ayahuasca is it was not like DMT. Yes, there's DMT in ayahuasca, but it wasn't like it was a rocket ship or you exploded into this diamond, and it only lasted 15 minutes. Ayahuasca lasts about 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes I guess it could last a little bit longer, but, it kind of comes on very gradually. And I was so nervous about that too. For me, I'm like nervous when I tried mushrooms. When anything I've tried, I'm the nervous one. Yeah. Brian's like, yeah, let's go. And me, I'm like, I'm nervous about every little thing.
Well, I don't want to ever like lose control. Like I realize that I like to control things. And so that's what I'm always worried about. Like having to fully surrender to something. I'm like, no, I want to make sure that I'm, you're protecting yourself.
Well, here's what worked for me.
What's that?
The whole time on that, as I was getting into that, I just kept saying over and over, like, thank you that you're going to be gracious to me. Thank you that you're going to be loving to me. And you're going to be a mama ayahuasca to me. And you're going to be loving to me and gracious to me. And I just kind of kept saying that over and over and over until I got through to the other side.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
Yeah. When we did Iboga, the Troy, who was talking to me about it before, he kind of told me you could speak to the medicine. And I did a psilocybin retreat, and nobody told me I could speak to the medicine, and I didn't. It was just like, whatever happened. And I was just like, oh, my God. And they're like, you laid there for 6 hours, like, going like this. That's all you did. I don't even know. Anyway, but same type of thing. Thank God he told me that you can speak to the medicine, because I was having so much negative self-chatter in my head to where I thought I was going to literally go crazy. And I was like, this cannot be for 10 hours. Like, I can't do this. So I remember, I'm like, oh yeah, Troy said I could talk to the medicine. So I said kind of the same thing. Like, I need to see what you want to show me, but can you be more gentle? And the second I said this white face came right here, and then it just went, and then it was like I was driving with my top down with a whole bunch of papers in my car, and they all just went. And then it was like, and I was like, oh my God, what just happened? Did I just do that? I was not in control, but I was in control. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Like so it was 3, when I went, it was like the Friday night, and then they do a Saturday morning and a Saturday night one.
Okay.
And so then you fly out the next day. But Friday night, the whole time I was like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like the whole time. And I'm yelling it to myself. Like, there is nothing wrong with you. Do you hear me? Mm. And I'm literally saying that. Do you hear me? And that was kind of like her telling me, like, your dad who still hangs around the abusers, that's not on you. That's something in him. Mm-hmm. The fact you can't talk to your mom about your abuse, she still doesn't want to hear it. I don't know if there's guilt. I don't really know. Yeah, but every time I've tried to talk to her about it, she wants to change the subject, and that hurt. And I was like, why can't I talk to my own mom about my abuse? What the hell?
Probably hurts her too much.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. But again, she was like, that's her. There's nothing wrong with you. That is something in them that's not right. Nothing wrong with you. Because I was trying to take the blame for that. Like, what's wrong with me that my dad is like that he can't just love me and not be around people who hurt me?
Right.
Like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
That's
nothing,
that way.
Nothing.
Yeah. So she was like, there is nothing wrong with you.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay. And the whole Friday, like literally that whole night, that was all.
Yeah.
So I said, I saw no visuals, which I was kind of bummed about.
Yeah.
Because I'm very like on mushrooms. Every time mushrooms trip, it's like 3D stuff. Like, yeah, I'll get some really cool healing experiences. I said fuck for the first time at 38 years old, but now it's like my favorite word. Which was the holy grail of bad words you don't say, because I grew up super, super religious in the church and stuff. So that was like the holy grail of words you don't say. And now it's like, oh, well, that's my favorite word.
Yeah. It's
I say it all the time.
It's a noun, it's an adjective, it's an adverb, it's whatever.
It's all the things.
It's all the words.
Yes. And so I was like, okay. And so then Saturday morning was really beautiful. I saw like dolphins jumping around in the water, and it was in Florida. And I kind of like was hearing like all these words of people, like whatever their words were that they would say on me. And so it was like I threw up, and it was like I was throwing up all the words that were put on me, like not good enough and ugly and poor and just bitch or whatever the words were that I took on. It was kind of like I took them all on. Yeah. Because I'm such a words of affirmation person. So for me, when somebody says something, it really hurts me to my core. And so it was kind of like, let's get all that off of you. Right. So it was like I threw up in this trash can that there was no end to it. I'm like, whoa, this is weird. This trash can has no end. It was like a big tunnel of it. It was weird. It was cool, but it was really weird. And then it was like, stand up. And I'm like, I don't want to stand up. And I fought her on it. I was like, I don't want to stand up. She's like, stand up. Like a mom, like, you stand up right now. Yeah. It's like, fine. So I like stood up all like reluctantly. And she's like, put your head up high and you walk tall. You walk tall because you've been through enough in your life, and you deserve to stand tall and walk tall. Yeah. You deserve to be here. And I never felt like I deserved to be alive. Yeah. Like I just never felt like I had a voice or I deserved to be heard or any of that. So she was like, no, you deserve to be here, and you need to stand tall and be brave, and you are here for a reason. I'm still trying to figure that part out at 40. but that was the one for me. It was like, wow, okay. And at that point I was like, I don't want to do a third one. I kept telling Brian, I was like, I don't want to do the third one. I've had enough. Like, I'm good. And he's like, babe, you just got to push through it. You got to do the last one. And I'm like, God, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it. I don't want to. And he's like, babe, just, I don't want you to regret not doing that last session. Right. You might regret it. And sure enough, if I wouldn't have, I probably would have regretted it. Because it was like, I heard like a rattle. So they had a lot of beautiful music that played the whole time. And I heard like this, almost like a baby rattle. And I was like, okay. And so I saw like me in like a crib. And then it kind of went on, and I'm in high school, a freshman in high school. And that's when I used to cut my wrists. Cause for some reason, the boyfriend I had at that point, he slammed me against the lockers, and I broke up with him the next day. And that just triggered all of the trauma that I had never dealt with up. And so it brought it all up as a freshman in high school. And so I started cutting my wrists and stopped eating a lot, and just, I didn't get anorexic, but pretty close. And I remember it showed me in the sitting Indian style, cutting my wrist with the blade, and it stopped there. And I was like, can I just throw, and I'm like, can I just throw this up? Like, is that what I need to do? Can I just throw that up, like, to get rid of that? Because I don't want that.
Right.
You know? And so I kept asking. And finally she's like, okay, that was so hard to throw up. Like, it was almost like the one time on the mushroom trip, it was the same kind of effect where it was like hooks that were in there from the religious trauma that I had in there, and I couldn't get it up. It was so hard. Well, that self-hate was so deep in there that I didn't know that was there. It was so deep that it took, I mean, when I say my throat muscles were sore for like a week, they were sore because it was so hard to get that vomit up of that self-hate.
Yeah.
But that was there.
Wow.
And she's like, you have self-hate. And I'm like, well, can I just throw it up? And I just kept asking. And then finally, like, she's like, you can now.
Yeah. Wow.
So I did. I threw it up, and I was like, okay, wow. Like, okay.
And that's amazing because you feel like you got rid of so much of that self-hate in the ibogaine journey.
Yeah.
I mean, now.
That's why I was like, how in the world did I even have anything left?
Right. You probably went into the ayahuasca like, I'm fine.
Yeah. Well, I went into ayahuasca with like, why does my dad still hang around the abusers? Why does my mom not let me talk about the abuse? And I was also, like I said, deconstructing from the church. I still believe in God, but just really got hurt in a lot of ways from the church. Oh, you're demon possessed. That's why you're not healed from that trauma. Oh, you know, something's wrong with you, and that's why you're not healed from it. Like, they put all that blame on me, why I'm not healed from this, when all I needed was ibogaine and DMT.
Right.
And counseling. I've done counseling too, but those were the two things. I'm like, no, you just need ibogaine and DMT.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so after the ayahuasca, when you finally got rid of it, you felt even probably way lighter than you even did before. Yeah.
I was like, man, like I said, I didn't even know that was in there, but I think it was so deep in there, and that's why it was so hard to throw that up. Yeah. Like, I think that was in there a long time.
Yeah.
Or it was. Like,
probably
it was
since you
in
were
there.
3.
Yeah. And that's why I'm like, okay, maybe that was why it was so hard to get it up, but it was so hard to get it up. And it wasn't as hard throwing up just even the toxins from the abuse. Like, that wasn't that hard. But for some reason, that self-hate was so deep in there. Yeah. Like you said, maybe just because it was from the age of 3 years old.
Yeah, when you allowed all those thoughts you blamed yourself for a long, long time. So you were able to finally realize that that's not you.
Yeah.
And now when you walk around, like, you know, things happen still that could be like hurtful or whatever. But I know, like, I've realized that I'm able to take a step back rather than allow myself to go down these like crazy rabbit holes. So you take a step back and you're like, okay, maybe part of that's within me, but maybe some of that's just within them.
Yeah.
And I can't take that on for them. And you're able to like move away from stuff easier, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. And
like, we were watching Forrest Gump the other day, and it just was a random thought. And I was like, holy shit, what the fuck? Like, I was talking to him about it again this morning. I was like, I watched Forrest Gump the other day, and you know how they demolished Jenny's old house, right? My dad lives in one of the houses I was abused in. He lives in that house right now. To this day, he lives in that house.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. It just kind of came to me, like, randomly. I'm watching Forrest Gump, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. But
so
again, that's not on you.
But again, it's not me.
I mean, you know, if he, I don't even have words for that, but I mean, but it's just something now where you can hopefully step back and go, you know what? That's awful. Yeah. That's on him. That's not on me. I shouldn't hate myself for it because I had no say in any of that.
No, not at all. So. Yeah. Then that's what I'm like. I love that I'm at that point now where I can, it hurts, but it's like, but that's not me. Right. That's him. That's something in him. That's not in me. And I can't take that. Yeah. It's not good for me to hold on to that.
Right.
So.
Wow. Wow. your story was like amazing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I am so happy to have met you.
Yeah, you
and
too.
Brian, and hopefully we'll chat more. And you know what?
Yeah.
All of this too, you're wondering like why I'm here. Mm-hmm. Part of it is your story. Just even saying this on this podcast, or telling friends, or friends telling friends, or somebody going, hey, Jamie went through this. You're helping somebody.
Yeah,
You're
I hope so.
healing somebody.
I hope
somehow.
so. Yeah.
When you keep it all in yourself, you're not healing anybody. So sharing your story, I'm really grateful. And
thank you.
You're definitely making a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah.
Somebody will listen to this and go, you know what? It wasn't my fault that this happened to me also, And
I started doing the paintings. And so, if you go to aftertraumaart.com, that's, where you can find a lot of my paintings. Okay. They're not all on there yet, and eventually they will be. But I'm making them to people can get them, or even just go, and I have like a little bit of why I wrote that one, or I painted that one. So they're just words that come to me. And yeah. So
what was it again? So everybody knows?
Aftertraumaart.com.
Aftertraumaart.com. I'm going to look that up. All right. Well, I think our time is coming close.
Okay.
But it was so great to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
And I promise everybody, Wiz will be back on Friday. I'm not a permanent fixture here, but this was very fun.
Yeah,
I was super nervous because
I was too.
Out of my comfort zone. Wiz is Mr. Chat to everybody. Mm-hmm. So this was really great.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
And Matt has a little tagline, and I always say after my first journey, I came home and I was like, everything's fine. Everything is always fine. No matter what happens, it's going to be fine. So that's my little sign-off tagline. Yeah. It's fine. Everything's fine. So it was great to meet you. And
you too.
We will hopefully see you guys soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.